Hi, good day everyone. Thank you for joining us today for the Food Hotel Asia conference. We're very happy today to have a star-studded panel to talk about tracing the state of chocolate and cocoa in Asia, the now and the next. Before we start, I'm going to introduce my speakers or my panelists for you. We'll let them introduce themselves real quick, and then we will begin. First off, we have Avinash from Modern Intelligence. Avinash, please.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Alvin, for the introduction. So my name is Avinash Desamangalam. I head the food and agriculture practice at Mordor Intelligence. So Mordor Intelligence is a company, a market research firm that focuses on 14 different industry verticals, providing over 500 clients with information regarding markets on a regular basis. And we are in the area of presenting a business case to a client for investment/expansion in a market. And we work on the food and beverage industry extensively, and of course on the cocoa and chocolate markets. Thank you.
Next up, we have Gerald from Von Alm. Gerald, please.
Yeah, hi, Alvin. Hi, everybody. Thank you very much for the nice introduction, Alvin, and also very honored to be on this panel here. Well, I'm Gerald from a company called Von Alm, based here in Singapore. We are in the cocoa industry. We are cocoa bean traders. We are sourcing our beans mainly in Latin America on the one hand, on the other hand, also in Asia Pacific, i.e. in Papua New Guinea, and selling it globally. And actually, I'm also together with Alvin on the executive committee of the Cocoa Association of Asia.
Thank you, Gerald. And last but not least, we have Vincent from Marou chocolate, based in Vietnam. Vincent, please.
Yes, hello. So my name is Vincent Marou, and I'm one of the founders of Marou Chocolate. We are a chocolate maker in Vietnam, working only with Vietnamese cacao and working directly with Vietnamese farmers in about 7 different provinces throughout Vietnam. We've been in existence since 2011. And we create a chocolate that we sell domestically, but we also export around the world. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. Now, just a quick word about myself. Obviously, I'm Alvin Lee. I'm the commercial director and of cocoa and chocolate in Cargill Asia Pacific. So we're a processor out here. We run obviously a factory in Indonesia. We're a primary converter, converting beans into various semi-finished products. I also sit with Gerald, as he's mentioned, on the executive committee of the Cocoa Association of Asia as its chairman. So really happy to have all of these experts with us here today to talk about a very exciting topic about tracing the state of cocoa and chocolate in Asia, the now and the next. Before we get into the panel discussion proper, I think we're going to let Avinash kick things off, but we're going to use the time today to explore the immense opportunity and potential that we have for all things cocoa and chocolate in Asia. We're going to try and cover things ranging from technological innovations, digitalization, obviously very important theme, sustainability. We're going to look at the growing potential of markets here in Asia. But before I ruin all of that, I'm going to let Avinash take it all away with his presentation that he's kindly put together for all of us. So Avinash, please, if you will.
Thank you so much, Alvin. So I'm just going to share my screen now. I hope you can see it all. Yep.
Good.
Great. So I'm going to set the context for this entire discussion, because it's very important to understand what kind of opportunity we are looking at in cocoa and chocolate, so that we can delve more deeper into technology and sustainability and traceability and other kind of systems that are very important for the market growth. So we had a very bitter year overall for the global economy, but cocoa and chocolate are a bit of sweetness in that particular year. So if you see what happened last year in terms of the growth of cocoa, the production stayed strong. So we had a good weather conditions across the major production regions in West Africa, especially over the production season that is ending. And However, there are some inclement weather events that are being reported in the ongoing season, and so that is expected to have a moderate growth in terms of the cocoa production, especially in the major regions. As far as APAC is concerned, Asia Pacific region is concerned, Indonesia, it's expected to be flat at best, or see a minor dip in the current season. But I think overall it augurs well, because there are a lot of stocks that are available, and high arrivals, especially in West African ports in the current season, is also being noticed. So I think it's going to be a good year as far as cocoa production is concerned. Moving on quickly to the end market, which is chocolate, which would be our main focus of the discussion. So key point which I want to stress here is with respect to the premiumization trend. So in many of the food markets, what we observed was the kind of waning of premiumization trend, especially in the wake of the pandemic. In chocolate market overall, it's a long-term trend that is here to stay. Although the markets remained almost flat in terms of the market size in 2021, and it's expected in 2020 because of the pandemic, and it's expected to see moderate growth in 2021. I think the future holds very good for the chocolate market in Asia Pacific. If you see the bottom left part of my screen, it's related to the window of premiumization. So there is a lot of premiumization that is happening in the chocolate market, expected to grow in the next 5 years or so. So there's a huge window. This does not mean that the volumes of chocolates, of normal chocolates, are going down, but there's a lot of premiumization happening, especially in the value part of the market. So the value of premium chocolate, the market value, is expected to increase, or at least we are projecting to increase over the next 5 years. So while the overall chocolate market is expected to grow at a CAGR of around 3%, the premium chocolate, especially that segment, by premium chocolate, what we mean is companies marketing their products as premium, not in terms of any price range, but in terms of marketing as premium products. The market is expected to zoom at around 12% CAGR, which is an exciting trend for all of us involved here. The most important kind of a premium trend is what is, we will delve deeper into that, is kind of a single origin chocolates. So there was a survey that was conducted by Barry Callebaut, and they said that around 68% of the consumers in Asia Pacific, they wanted to understand what is the chocolate ingredients, especially, which is a great start for a region, and then moving towards further kind of single origin expectations from the customers. So especially with regards to traceability, we've seen an increase in the compliant cocoa production. So especially with the UTZ and Rainforest Alliance kind of coming together, we see a large chunk of the cocoa being certified in that way. Organic is still yet to catch up, but I think there are a lot of challenges with respect to organic cocoa as well. Traceability has improved. A lot of companies focusing on traceability, and a lot of their traceability systems, especially in West Africa, focusing on a lot of traceable procurement. I think this has to be viewed in line with what I told earlier regarding the premiumization trend. So a lot of premium chocolates require this kind of a back-end standardization and certification. And so since that market is also growing, we expect a lot of opportunities to come up in sustainable production, as well as the implementation of technology in the traceability systems. The only one caveat or challenge would be in terms of the producers, and I'm hoping that the other panelists who are actually working with producers and other value chain stakeholders would be able to throw more light on, is the ground level infrastructural challenges, especially in terms of connecting with a wide set of farmers who are mostly small landholder farmers. So I think that challenge remains. However, through various kind of organization of farmers and other kind of means, I think this challenge is also, a lot of people are trying to overcome these challenges to provide the highest quality chocolates to the consumers. Another key trend that is impacting the market is the insistence or the preference for a clean label ingredients, especially by consumers in Asia Pacific. I think with the growth in the market, with the growth, more and more people adopting a premium level of chocolate, I think this clean label ingredients is also expected to have a good introduction into the cocoa market. So I think this is what it is all about in a nutshell, about what happened during the last year and how it's been, and how we as analysts foresee this market into the near future, probably for the next 5 to 7 years. I think that's it from my side, Alvin. So I'll keep the presentation open so that we can have the further discussions.
Yep. Well, thank you, Avinash. Thank you for that. Thank you for that wonderful presentation. So, we have, I'm sure, a lot of the ground to cover, not so much time. So I'm gonna get straight to it. Avinash, and obviously for the whole panel, I guess, what is needed to boost the growth further, you think, of chocolate consumption? You've pointed out some very nice statistics, a 3+% CAGR growth rate. But what do we need to supercharge that, you think, in Asia? What are elements that we need? Maybe Avinash, you can kick off.
Yep. I think what is the positive trend for Asia Pacific, or what is working for Asia Pacific region, is the kind of habits of customers which involve both in terms of the occasions of consumption. So occasions of consumptions are kind of how more here in the Asian region compared to the other regions where the consumption is focused on certain occasions throughout the year. So the more occasions which can be marketed well, that is one opportunity. Premiumization is a trend which is here to stay. And especially the single origin chocolates, there is a lot of demand, I guess, for chocolates originating from Belgium, chocolates originating from Switzerland. So these kind of places, as well as I think this is also an opportunity for people from the Asia Pacific region to focus on specific origin chocolates within the Asian region, which can drive the consumer sentiment to grow.
Vincent, you're a producer of single origin chocolates, obviously. I'm sure you have some interesting insights on that. Maybe your comment or thoughts on what's needed to boost this impressive growth rate already even further in terms of the consumption of chocolate out here.
Yeah, I mean, all of us are living in cacao producing countries. And one of the things that we've seen and that we started, and what was inspiring for us when we started, was to actually make a great chocolate in the country of origin. And back in 2011, there were only a handful of companies around the world who were able to create an export market chocolate that would interest specialists and enthusiasts. And so switching that model, and I think we're in a situation now where we're seeing premiumization, as it's called. But what we're able to do, I think, to really push the growth of chocolate consumption is to show that chocolate is something else. Chocolate is not just an ingredient. It's not just something to coat, some industrial, good, but it's something that has value, has health-wise, taste-wise. I mean, it's a bit of an acquired taste, but I think there's a special relationship between cacao and people, and people once they it's like coffee. Once you start getting into it, you're a bit hooked. So it's our responsibility, I think, being in country, being in these growing economies, growing markets, to present something that is truly good, taste-wise, that represents cacao in its highest form. And also that we can show that it's bought equitably, it's bought, it's farmed, under sustainable ways, and certification helps, of course, but is not the most important thing. I think people also look at a brand, and they look at the brand and the credibility of the brand and everything. So anyway, I think each of us are sitting in a very special position, being in a cacao growing country, to see this happening.
Right. And last, Gerald, any thoughts on what is needed, or what else can be added to the mix, to boost consumption in this part of the world?
Yeah, well, after listening to Vincent, actually, I want to have a chocolate bar right now. I think there was a lot of passion in what Vincent said, and I think that's pretty much yeah, great. I think that's probably one of the biggest USP, the unique selling proposition of our product. But I think it's also having seen the numbers now from Avinash in terms of the growth. The global one in the cocoa, but also here in Asia. I think it's worth to be mentioned that in a broader context with any other commodities, I think those numbers, because I have seen many commodities, I have been in the commodity industry for almost 20 years. I've been in energy and in the metals and now in the agri. But comparing the growth numbers of cocoa with, let's say, energy or metal or whatever, I mean, these are really fantastic numbers. And I think why do we see this kind of growth, and why do we as a company believe in this growth story of our industry is, on the one hand, you've got a kind of the European or the Western world where you have already kind of high chocolate consumption per capita per year on the one hand, and it's still penetrating, so it's still growing there. So that's one thing. But then, of course, you got here now Asia Pacific, in particular China and India, where the penetration numbers are not that high. I mean, it's a kind of a fraction of what we see in Europe as well as in North America. And accordingly, the potential there is huge. So how to unlock that potential? I think it is a cultural thing in the first place. So Europe is very familiar for centuries with chocolate, not so much here in Asia, but I think Asia is adapting, right? So I think the same happened with coffee. I think coffee consumption in China, I think is nothing unusual. It's rather a common thing nowadays. But remember, I mean, China is a tea nation, or was known to be a tea nation. The same is since Vincent is in Vietnam. I mean, I think Vietnam is now #1 producer of coffee, not of the Arabica, but of Robusta coffee, right? Globally, that happened within 10 years or so, right? So I think there is a kind of a transformation. I believe when it comes to the Asian story here in terms of cocoa, probably the hope was there that this goes much faster. But I think over time we will get there. We will definitely get higher penetration rate of it, and people getting used, and they will enjoy, and they will understand the passion and the love that sits into our products. So I think that's pretty much my view on the growth here in Asia.
Thank you, Gerald. No, very, very insightful. Avinash, I'm going to come back to you to one of your first slides. You know, lots of good information on there. So one thing that stood out to me was even though we had a decent growth rate in the overall size of the chocolate market, you did point out that the size of the premiumization market was expected to more or less almost double in the next 5 years to 2026. That obviously stokes the question, why, in your opinion, and I'm very keen to understand from Vincent and Gerald, obviously, if they agree. So Avinash, maybe you can take us through why you guys or why you see this trend. I realize that data was taken from Barry Callebaut, but maybe you can speak more to your beliefs on why this is likely to happen.
There are two trends, key trends that will contribute to this growth in our projections. So the first thing is with respect to the volumes. Obviously, it's the volumes of premium chocolates or whatever is marketed as premium is expected to increase in major regions such as China and India. Yes, the penetration rates are low currently, but I think what our expectation is for a lot of consumers to adopt premium chocolates in these markets, especially. We're also seeing Japan, which is a huge market for chocolates in general. I think Japan is also expected to grow to a large extent. So I think that is the volume part of it. The second is the super premium segment, which is kind of increasing its presence across these markets. So earlier it could have been just hardly 0.1% of the market in major countries like China and India, but I think right now there is a lot of availability with increase in incomes and with changing not I would say lifestyles, but purchasing patterns, especially with respect to the channel which they look at. So a lot of shift from the traditional channel of convenience stores to a lot of hypermarkets and supermarkets, where there is a lot of opportunity for display of premium products that is happening across these markets, especially in urban areas. There is also an emergence of, in terms of the channel, the emergence of e-commerce. So non-traditional products like food. I mean, in countries like China or India, these were 5 years back non-traditional products to be sold on an e-commerce channel. But now, in the recent years, it's become quite so popular to sell all kinds of products, especially a lot of semi-perishable products like chocolates through the online channel, and those systems have improved a lot. So there is a greater accessibility of the consumers to premium chocolates, which is kind of increasing their spend on these kind of premium chocolates as well. So I think both with respect to the spend as well as with respect to the penetration, we're changing very positive changes, and that's why we've kept on optimistically projecting the premium chocolate.
No, that's a great point, actually. Anecdotally, I have to say, you brought me back to a time when we could travel, and one of my last trips up country into Indonesia, into the what we call the bush. We're out in Sopeng, which is kind of in the middle of the island of Sulawesi. I was actually very surprised to see, and I go every year back in the day. I was very surprised to see actually little mini marts with cold chain up there. And obviously with cold chain, it starts to compete with your little, what we call the warungs, right? And roadside dusty little stores that have no cold chain technology. And what you can offer when you have cold chain suddenly up in the middle of nowhere is indeed a more premium product. So that is a great point, talking about penetration. I'm gonna throw this question at Vincent, because obviously you, I think, are the with Marou chocolates, you guys are the epitome of premiumization trends in terms of the single origin space. So maybe you can give us your take on why this is going to be the truth. Vincent,
Yes,
please.
Interesting. So two things. First of all, being in country, we're able to sell a super premium chocolate at a price that's equal to an imported premium brand like Lindt, for example. Quality-wise and craftsmanship and everything, that the work involved, and I mean, much more higher value. So that's in country. That's when we sell here versus what's imported. So there's that going on when you're able to produce in country. Also, there's what happened is we started making chocolate here, and in the last 10 years, there's now about 20 different brands of Vietnamese chocolate that didn't exist. So what's happened is people, are inspired by people like us, and they create their own little brand, and so that's happening in India. I've seen that. I mean, 6-7 years ago, we were pretty much one of the only ones, selling a tiny bit of chocolate in the super premium range of bean to bar. Not talking about other categories of chocolate, but in this kind of bean to bar. And then now there's all these brands, and I have lots of friends in India who are making chocolate. So we're seeing that and it's premium chocolate. It's crafted. They're buying directly and from farmers, and they're selecting the cacao themselves and all these things, and they're reaching out to more and more people, and they're on different sales platforms like e-commerce, and so yeah, they're much more visible than they would have been maybe 10 years ago. It was strictly brick and mortar, and with chocolate, it's difficult to distribute because of the heat in our tropical countries and things like that. And then also for retailers to have the chocolate because of the need for AC and all these things that we see as being issues in our countries are today a bit different. Yeah, I mean, I think in Indonesia as well. I mean, all our countries, we're seeing more and more brands that are creating good chocolate. So I think that might be also an explanation for the rise in the premium chocolate sector. Of course, I don't know exactly, because premium chocolate is I mean, I don't know how that's defined, you know, price point
Well,
wise and product wise, but that's definitely what's happening. Brands are popping up and they're creating really good chocolate in country.
well, maybe to speak to that, you could maybe offer us a little anecdote of your own. I mean, I'm very curious to find out what has been the growth rate of Marou chocolates since you've been founded. What have you guys gone, you know, from
Well,
to where you are today in terms of size, volume, number of bars, or volume that you sell? Yeah, maybe you can give us a little insight into that.
I mean, we've grown greatly. I mean, we're a company that's grown organically over the last 9 years. So we've just reinvested our profits to grow. You know, essentially pre-COVID, we were growing roughly 30% every year. And that was in the last 2 years, it was greatly due to, or 3 years, greatly due to the things happening in Vietnam. So our domestic sales really were you know, became more and more important versus the export. That's pre-COVID. Anyway, so now today we plan on growing further a bit more quickly. We are producing roughly 70 tons of chocolate a year. So that's you know, for a company like Cargill or others, we're very small. However, our vision is to grow to roughly, you know, 1,000 tons in the next 5 to 10 years. And that's by working in parallel with the development of cacao. So working, and that's probably another subject that we'll touch on today. But you know, access to cacao and in country. Does that help, or should I give you?
Sorry, I have a small tech hiccup. No, I was just saying, actually it helps a lot. It makes Avinash's numbers look a little light if we look at your growth trajectory, right? 30% year on year up until the COVID issue hit. So that's very inspiring and a real shot in the arm for the story of premiumization or premium chocolates at least. Gerald, maybe just to close off this segment on premiumization, you know, as somebody who serves the industry, what have you seen?
Premiumization, yeah. I mean, for example, talking to the bean to bar kind of industry, I also can share an anecdote on that. It was a few years ago, I think 2 years, if I'm not wrong. I was attending a conference in Colombia, because in Colombia we also got the daughter company there, and we're operating there. And that was, I think it was basically the biggest chocolate and cocoa conference of the year. It was in Bogota. And I've seen there so many bean to bar producers, and I was able to taste the chocolate there, and it was amazing. It was flashing me away. I've never seen such a chocolate before. So I was very much impressed by it on the one hand. On the other hand, so by the quality on the one hand, on the other hand, also by the size of the different players, so to say. So the quantity of different chocolates that I've seen there was also very much amazed by that. And then last but not least, but I think also quite important, the packaging of all those chocolates. I mean, I love it so much. I mean, they're very creative, very innovative. So, I mean, you know, those are these kind of things that it's probably something you give away as a gift or as a present or whatever, but also sometimes enjoy it yourself on a special day, or it's probably not the day-to-day thing, because I'm really a big chocolate eater. I mean, at least 1 bar a day. I'm going, I don't know, in any convenience store and just buy it and I eat it. I guess I need it. But then you have for these more special occasions, okay, now here I go for that kind of premium chocolate. So I enjoy it a lot. And when I've been there in Colombia, I've met a lot of people there, and also people from Europe. And I was talking to them who are also in that industry, and actually, yeah, it was 10, 15 years ago. So I'm also, Vincent, quite amazed to see that you started already 9 years ago, right? I believe still part of that kind of pioneer generation, if you want to call it like that. And they passed away. And now I think it's probably still a bit of a niche, but it's definitely getting out of it. I would love to see some market share numbers on that on a global scale, but probably it's not to be called niche anymore. I think it's there. It got definitely a share, and it's here to stay, and it's appreciated obviously by the customers. So yeah, I like the trend a lot.
All right, fantastic. Thank you, Gerald, for that. I'm going to shift gears here into a topic that may keep us on the phones till tomorrow, but we're going to have to try and do this real quick. Let's talk a little bit about sustainability, right? Because, you know, obviously with a lot of growth in demand, we need supply to keep up. Avinash, on your first chart, obviously we see in terms of global production, a new record being set in the current crop year, with global production now expected to top 5 million tons. At the same time, Asian production seems to be relatively flat or stagnant, right? So I just want to throw that out there in terms of, is that going to work for us, you know, in Asia, in terms of having overall production increasing but Asian production lagging behind? Is that, in terms of sustainable production meeting sustainable demand, is that a good footing for us to be on?
I believe it's certainly a challenge because you know, the overall production has to match up for, you know, all the players, all the stakeholders in the value chain to have sufficient interest in you know, establishing sustainable production systems, especially the role of you know, especially these are developing countries where, I mean, we all belong to developing countries where, you know, there are a lot of ground level challenges, especially in the farming community with respect to the you know, fragmented land holdings and those kind of challenges. I think the production really has to pull through over the next couple of years for sustainability to, you know, have a major role and interest in all the stakeholders, both internal to the value chain as well as the external stakeholders. I think people like Vincent will have a huge role to play, and these kind of producers who are, you know, in that segment where they can afford to have sustainability systems incorporated into their entire value chains. I think more of such producers need to come out, especially in the Asian region, and it's all interconnected to, you know, what the end consumer market is expected to have, and, you know, slowly trickling down to the lowermost level of the producer. But I think production really has to catch up, and I believe we are on a good footing in terms of the progress we've seen over the last few years, although this last few years have been, or last 2 years at least, has been relatively flat. But I think that needs to happen so that everyone has interest in imparting these systems, sustainable systems, into the value chain.
And I'm going to swing over to Gerald. To, you know, we'll go from a little bit maybe bigger picture and get a bit more micro from here. I mean, Gerald, what do you see from where you stand? You know, you serve obviously a wide segment of the cocoa and chocolate manufacturing base. So very interested to hear your take on how we are in terms of sustainability as an industry out here in Asia.
Yeah, I think in terms of, so first of all, sustainability in cocoa, right? So I think the whole industry itself, I think, has done a great job and is doing a great job. Still, a lot of things to be done. But if you look at all the different companies, like the bigger players, like, I mean, for example, Cargill with the Cocoa Promise, or there is the Cocoa Compass, there is the Chocolate Forever. So there is sustainability in one generation. So I think you can see big effort of our industry when it comes to sustainability. As far as I understand, that already started more than 20 years ago. And since then, I think we have seen a few different things. We have seen coming in these certifications, as Avinash was showing us, like the UTZ, the Rainforest Alliance, the Fair Trade, of course, also the organic. I think we have seen that coming in, but more lately, let's say over the last 3, 4, 5 years, that also the bigger producers, also the converters, like yourself, Alvin, that this industry started also its own projects. So the certificates like fair trade, this is a kind of third party thing, right? But now what you can see is that also the industry players are going down on the ground and try to be sustainable. Now, I think, what does it mean, sustainable, right? If you go back one step, there is the United Nations who defined the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, so the 17 SDGs. And I think when it comes to our industry, probably most important things are is children and community. It's nature, in particular deforestation, and it's of course also the living income differentials. And along those three streams, you can see big efforts. So in Indonesia, for example, I think there is in particular also Cargill, but other companies there on the ground as well, to go to the farmer to try to understand their needs and how they can help. And it comes down to the points, how can I help you to lift your yield? And how can I make sure that, so that's in terms of the living income, right? So to raise the income on the one hand, but also helping their families to prosper in a way like providing access to education, to know-how, and also making sure that we also protect our planet. As the United Nations is saying, sustainability is about promote prosperity for the people across the world and also protect the planet at the same time. And I can see really, when I was getting into the details about 2 years ago on these sustainability initiatives in our industry, and to be honest, I was again quite flashed by it, how much effort we put in. Yes, I think there are still problems out there, but I can truly see the effort coming out from the heart of our industry to help the farmers, to help the people on the ground on the one hand, and also to protect our planet, our nature on the other hand. So that's why I'm saying it's probably not only about Asia. I think that's more about a global scale, but also in particular, for example, in Indonesia, you can see there is a big and a lot of work done on the ground.
No, thanks, Gerald. Very insightful as usual. I'm Vincent, I'm going to come to you here, and I'm going to layer this question, make it a little bit more difficult for you. So still interested, obviously, in your take on why and how sustainability matters, you know, obviously for this market here. But I also want to throw it out there. You know, you have a unique position as a bean to bar company, started out in Vietnam, almost a decade of looking at how things have changed over that time period. I want to understand, you know, to you, do you see that sustainability Asia is too big of a catch-all? Is there a different brand of sustainability in different parts of Asia? You know, in Vietnam, obviously, and obviously in markets that you participate, do consumers ask for something different? Is it certification? Is it a good marketing story? You know, what do you see? And I'll let you do that, and then I'll finish off the last part of the question. But I'll let you go first before this gets too long.
Yeah, it's sustainability is a very, you know, broad and you know, topic. In Vietnam, I mean, we're in a bit of a special situation in the sense that first of all, we don't operate on the market price. We've never really operated or been, you know, indexed ourselves to the market price. We offer a flat price and a high price for the quality of the cacao, so that the farmers don't have to, you know, be affected by the fluctuations and things like that in the market. So that was a choice that we made about 4 or 5 years ago, and it's really worked for us. And it worked in retaining a lot of farmers who wanted to switch over to other crops that were paying more. So in Vietnam, basically, there aren't many very large plantations. So we deal with a lot of small farmers who are just trying to make the most from their land. What we see is more diversity because of that. So they don't have just cacao; they have other crops, fruit trees. Depends on the provinces and things like that. So first of all, diversity is very important support sustainable farming practices and the environment. So putting less pressure on the environment. Agroforestry is another way of going in that direction. But fundamentally, we have to pay a good price for the cacao. You can't, and we need to also give support for farming practices and ways that can be implemented to improve sustainability. But without the price, there's too much pressure. So in Vietnam, there isn't that much. There is a bit of pressure because it's coming from the desire to switch over to other commodities from us. But you know, if the pod farmer doesn't make a living, they're going to cut their trees. It's that simple. You know, if they're making a living, then they continue with cacao. That's how things are in Vietnam. The farmers are educated. They know what's going on. There's organization in the community where they have access to information. They have access to other seedlings. They have access to the trends. Of course, the trends have kind of bitten them at times because, like in pepper, for example, the Vietnamese flooded the market with their pepper, and their market, you know, and the price, you know, went from $12 a kilo to $2.50 a kilo or something like that in the span of a couple of years. So, you know, now they're getting used to this whole market price and supply demand notion. So they're less apt to switch over as quickly to other commodities. But anyway, fundamentally, I believe that we have to pay a good price for the cacao, and we have to give support to the farmers if we expect any change. So it has to be done on both ends, and working closely in country on the ground. You know, we can do those things. We can make those things happen. Otherwise, I think otherwise it's very, very difficult.
And have there been any initiatives that you look back that you did that you wish you hadn't done, or that you wish you had done? I guess any learnings from what you've done in Vietnam as advice for other markets, or it doesn't work that way, you think?
I think advice is I think we need to recognize how much we pay for our cacao. I mean, and just really and then give support. And I think we, as a small company, weren't able to give as much support, technical support and things like that early on, because we just didn't have the resources and the know-how. But of course, as we've grown, we now have a department that takes care of that, and that creates programs. You know, whether it's for sustainable farming practices, going organic, things like that. So I don't really have a regret per se on that point. I think that you know, we've always done the best we can, and we always will. That's just part of who we are.
So it's an interesting point that you pay a flat price, you know, to your farmers, and that keeps it stable. And not too dissimilar from what I think the Ivory Coast was trying to do, or the West African countries were trying to do, the LID, somewhere at the mid mark of last year, or at the start of this crop season, if you will. Do you have any insights maybe, and I'll open this to both Avinash and Gerald as well, as to why this was or wasn't so successful in your opinion, in terms of what they were trying to do versus what you have done in Vietnam? Is that simply a question of scale? You talk about profits and all that. You know, this is a very common question. Can ethical, you know, chocolate and profits coexist, I guess, in that sense?
To be truthful, I'm not equipped to answer that question well, because I don't know the situation really in Africa. I imagine it's very complicated. There is a lot of political intervention, presence in there. So I don't know. However, it works for us. Absolutely. It was the fundamental reason that we were able to really maintain the fermenters and pod farmers and cacao alive in a lot of different areas that were under the pressure from other commodities, the new trend, if you will. And we have to give people a perspective, especially if there's pressures and so. Yeah, for Africa, I know it's very complicated, and also I don't know where all the forces are at play there. However, everything that we're seeing, detrimental to the environment, all the social problems that we're seeing, it's basically due to the low cost that people are paying for cacao. I mean, there's no other reason. I mean, people don't go to child labor because they want to. Because kids work better, it's a last resort. People don't go into national forests and deforestate, and there's a whole level of corruption involved in that too, because, they want to, it's the best idea. No, it's because those are the pressures, and we have to recognize that. And I think, of course, I'm not, Gerald is much more closely, he knows a lot more about all the efforts that the big players are doing in those areas, but it's not moving fast enough. It's happening, but it's people on the ground are doing more damage than people above are actually able to repair.
No, these are all fantastic points, Vincent. No, yeah, absolutely correct. And also, indeed, another point you raised, obviously what happens out in West Africa is a bit far and remote for us out here in that sense. But a completely different system, completely different scale. So all these are important factors to bear in mind on the success of one system versus the other, I'm sure. I'm very conscious of time, as my minders have been pointing out in the background that we are fast approaching. So I wanna keep focusing on, instead of the now as well, I want to go and focus on the next. So I have a question around technology, and the CAA recently, obviously we had a small little seminar together with the guys at UNDP on blockchain. But I want to ask maybe Gerald, we'll start off with you this time. What do you see, I guess, as the technological innovations that can help the cacao and chocolate story going forward? Maybe any particular thoughts you have on blockchain, and I want to swing around to Vincent and Avinash, obviously, from where you guys sit, to have your closing thoughts on this as well. Gerald, please.
Yeah, thanks. I think you're right. We had that webinar with the CAA, right? With people from the United Nations and Development Department. And it was quite amazing that what they've done. I think they made a pilot project in Ecuador. It's called the Other Bar. And what they have done there is they created also or produced or crafted a chocolate as well. I think available online, so you can buy it online. And with every bar that you buy, you're also getting a token. And that token is based on blockchain. And actually, as a consumer, you have now two choices, or probably three. First one, you don't do anything at all with that token. The second one is, you kind of donate that token. So because it represents a value, I can't remember exactly how much it was, but in any case, the idea is you donate it, and then actually it comes to the farmers in Ecuador who have been part of that pilot project. And they do get then, I think it's about seedlings and cocoa trees. So that's the way they support them. And the other option is, so number 3 is you can use that token and to get a discount on any additional purchase. So, and as far as I understand, 80% of all the people that have used that token basically did the donation. So, and I think this is really awesome and great to see. And that's basically one of the ways that where you can use technology, and in particular the new technology on blockchain in our industry. I think it's this traceability, which is very important to enable the sustainability, right? So I think in that particular project, the idea was supporting the farmer, giving them new seedlings to maintain the farm, or to maintain the trees and productivity and the yield on their farms, and supporting them on basically on the living income. And to do that, again, here the technology helps to make that traceability. And I think there is also a demand, that the desire out there from the consumers, in order to understand, okay, where is that product coming from that I'm eating? I think those what Avinash showed in the presentation as well. So, and actually it's not only about chocolate, right? You can see it in all different foods and ingredients, where really the consumer more and more is wondering about, okay, where is it coming from? And if there is a QR code or barcode or whatever that you can scan it, where you can see the farmer and the farmer, I think that connects you to the producer, and that creates the awareness. And I think that basically helps a lot, and also to get that compassion and to say, okay, well, I mean, definitely I need to support them, and something needs to happen there. So I think technology in our industry, in particular when it comes to traceability, that is just one example. I think there are a lot of other examples out there as well. With blockchain, you can make crazy things like doing the smart contracts, and a lot of different applications. And I think we are just at the beginning of that journey, not only in our industry, but across all the different industries. So it's quite exciting times.
And Avinash, do you have? I know it wasn't necessarily on the on your presentation. I mean, any thoughts on this? You know, in terms of where you see this going from a data standpoint. You know, the background data that you look into. Does that support what Gerald just said?
Yes, exactly. I think traceability is, you know, one of the things that a lot of producers are looking at. It's also like Gerald also touched upon from a marketing perspective, where consumers are increasingly, they want to be made aware of the ingredients of a product first of all. So there was a generation where people didn't care about the ingredients. There is a generation of consumers who think that we need to understand what are the ingredients in this product. The next generation of consumers would want to know where these ingredients are coming from, and the fourth generation could be people who would say that I want to know who produced these ingredients. So I think towards the market is slowly moving towards that, and I think it all puts that into one single chain, right? The premiumization trend happening on the one hand, then we are getting into sustainability, which is a very important tool for or very important something that's close to the heart of the consumer. Then we have something like a traceability systems, which are kind of very important towards achieving this objective of sustainability. And on top of all that, the blockchain, which offers a tool to put all of this together. So I think it all falls in place for the industry. And I think looking at where the market is headed, all these touch points will have a lot of future in the coming 5 or 10 years.
No, thank you, Avinash. Thanks for that. We've very sadly run out of time here. So, I think I just want to wrap things up real quick on behalf of my distinguished panel. But, I think from the data that Avinash has provided, from the anecdotal evidence and stories that Vincent and Gerald have kindly shared with us, very clearly, cocoa and chocolate, the story in Asia is still on the ascendancy. There are definitely great paths forward where that can be more pronounced. Particularly, we explored, the story of premiumization. And if we come back, ending off on the whole technological aspect as well, there's a lot to be done there. I think it's all about an open mind, clearly. Who among us would have thought that a year later we still be, as the modus operandi of conferences, still be sitting here in front of a screen, zooming at each other. So I think it goes, there's obviously a big unknown out there, but I think the story here is clearly one of promise and potential. And I think, from where Vincent, some of the anecdotes that Vincent has shared as well, obviously there are different circumstances in different markets that we all have to pay attention to. But, we're happy to cover some of these grounds, obviously, during the Q&A. And with that, I'd like to end the session. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time and for your insights today. Wish everyone a pleasant day. Thank you.